Well, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I want to welcome everyone there to our July 2019 board meeting. This is the first meeting of the 2019-2020 budget, and we'll be considering rebates to our electrical customers. And this is FPB's opportunity to share our cost savings from our lower energy costs with our customers. Tonight's also a full moon, and with respect to that, Saturday will be the 50th anniversary of the astronauts walking on the moon. And that was 384,400 kilometers away. Tonight I'm telecommuting from 1,071 kilometers away. So I'm Anna Marie Pavlik-Rosen, chair of the Frankfort Plant Board. To the right of where I would be sitting, Walt Baldwin, vice chair, Don Hale, secretary treasurer, Steve Mason, board member, Jeff Bradshaw, board member, and attorney for the board, James Liebman. So our first item of business is to approve the June 18th, 2019 board meeting. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 18th, 2019 board meeting and to accept the draft minutes from the Cable Advisory Committee meeting of June the 11th.
Okay, yeah, good point. We can approve both together if everyone approves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of approving both our minutes and also the Cable Advisory minutes?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Public comment. Do we have anyone here? I know Kathy Warner is here. Anyone who would like to make a public comment?
Looks like we're good, yeah.
I thought there was somebody maybe either. Someone said this is gonna be a boring meeting because I'm not gonna speak. Come on, Kathy.
Commissioner Sowers, were you going to make a public comment or were you just going to?
No, just listen.
I think we're good.
Okay, no public comment. We'll go ahead. We did have some website customer comments, and we've read those. There was one in support of building a single reservoir unit, single tank. So we've all read those. We'll go on to cable telecommunications trouble calls, or their monthly update.
Good afternoon. The cable report starts on page 23, your board package. The first page is trouble call for the month, and we're down almost 100 versus this time last year. The next two pages are the outages for the month of June. We had two outages. One was a power supply failure, and the other one was a storm damage in May 30, which took quite a bit of time to get restored. We actually had to wait on Bluegrass Energy to come in and set a couple poles to get that restored. The last page of your report is the penetration numbers for the month of June. Looks like we're above budget in all areas. We're down a little bit in security and VOD, but everything else looks pretty good. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, looks good. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. And customer service.
Good evening. The customer service reports can be found on page 29, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. Do we have a report on the Network Operations Center or from them?
Thank you, sir.
Just distributed a quick handout. I did not include it in the board packet because the numbers at the top reflect up to today. It just gives, again, a snapshot of what we've done over the past 30 days. As you can see, the graph shows the calls. That's the trouble tickets, not the actual number of calls we've taken, but the trouble tickets we've entered in the period since the last board meeting, so June 17th until today. And you'll see that we took 91 electric, 7 water, 33 cable, 32 for data, 10 for phone, and then 2 for security. Over the past month, actually for the month of June, the staff of the Network Operations Center has handled 3,678 phone calls, customer contacts, whatever you want to call them, people we've assisted. And then we've included the utility locates by month. 619 locates in June, and so far this month we've done 329. So year to date, 3,653. And I always kind of triple that because when our folks do locates, as I mentioned before, they're doing it for water, electric, and cable. So they're doing all 3 services. But that's all, just kind of, again, a snapshot of our activity for the past month, unless, you folks have any questions that I can answer for you. Nothing. Ms. Rosen?
Sounds good. Thank you, Darren.
Right.
Was there anything unusual in the last month, or it sounds, just since
No, we've had
it's a new department?
There's been some small storms, isolated outages, nothing major. But as the year progresses, I think we're just starting to see, we're starting to develop our numbers. I think it'll probably be a pattern over the next year from month to month. We'll probably know that, just from experience, we know that spring's busier because of storms and winter's busier because of ice storms and that typical thing. A lot of it is just customer inquiries too. A lot of phone calls after hours at night inquiring about some things we can help folks with and some things not. Some of it is held over, for customer service to follow up on the next day. So it's a mixed match of various types of calls.
Okay.
Right.
Well, sounds good.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Okay. Electrical department report, electric report, I guess.
Yes, Madam Chairman and fellow board members, as you turn to page 33 in your board package, you will see that the SAIDI number for the month of June is 71.239. On page 34, you'll see your pie chart, which shows the percentages of the types of outages. And then on page 35, you will actually see the total count number for each of those types of outages. The total of 51 outages for the month of June. On page 36, you'll see the top 10 outages we had for the month of June, with the total of customers affected was 212. Be happy to answer any questions.
I had one question. I noticed birds were listed as a problem for electric service. How do they affect things?
Birds typically get places they really shouldn't get. They tend to get on top of transformers, on top of cross arms and below insulators. So they get into things that typically they're really bad about bird guards. We do put bird guards on all our transformer bushings and on our lightning arresters, but there's always a little gap where the wire comes out. And believe it or not, spiders build nests in there. And of course, they're catching bugs, and the birds sit on top of the transformer and it's pecking through this little hole trying to eat the bugs, and then of course they like the wrong thing. So,
Okay. Well, I guess they see an opportunity.
they're hungry.
But,
They're hungry.
okay. Yep. Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Thank you.
Okay. The SEPA report.
Good evening, everyone. Vin's out tonight, so I'm going to cover the SEPA report for him, which begins on page 37 of the board package. you'll see we're a couple months behind, so the latest figures are for the month of May. You'll probably notice that for the first time in the report, we're receiving a capacity value for the SEPA energy, which brings the net credit, along with the energy value. The net credit for the month of May was $36,968. And the total 2019 SEPA credit is $5,643 as of May.
Do we expect that this trend will continue through the summer?
My understanding is that the capacity credit is here to stay, and we expect the SEPA figures to remain up because of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And KyMEA.
really
Anything to report there?
Not really. KyMEA still operate smoothly since the May 1st, and I'm glad the board going to discuss the saving to the customer from KyMEA today. Thank you.
Okay, great. And safety, from looking at the report, it looks like we're continuing to be very safe.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board. JC, I'll be filling in for Kim tonight. She's actually out. Just as you spoke, ma'am, we've continued our trend of no OSHA recordables, no accidents. It's always a win-win for us. Have to answer any questions.
Looks good. Thank you. So, water distribution.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Water distribution report can be found on page 45 through 49. We had 6 main breaks and 4 outages. And then just to give the board a heads up, we also are going to have reservoir inspections, our annual reservoir inspection coming up. So we will be draining the reservoir down, one side of the reservoir, starting the week of the 24th, probably last several weeks. So the Tanglewood residents will notice water down by the road as we drain it, and we'll have half of it out of service for a couple of weeks. And then also an update on East Main. We have finished the lower portion of East Main. I think they placed the last blacktop today. We'll be moving up closer to K-State. We'll be working on the section from Glens Creek Road up to just past Cary Avenue. There's probably about where the message board is at the top of the hill, so we'll shift that work up just a little bit up toward K-State, and the sewer contractor has already moved into the lower portion. Water fountain update, we have not started on East Frankfort Park because I pulled them off to finish up East Main, but they're supposed to start, they've got locates, supposed to start next week. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Alan. So, water treatment plant.
Good evening. The June report is on page 51 in your board packet. We treated 237 million gallons for the month of June, averaging just under 8 million gallons per day. We got a lot of rain again. So 6 months of the calendar year, we've had significant rainfall. We had almost 6 inches of rain, which was 9 inches over for the year, January through June. River flow was high. We averaged about 8.4 billion gallons of water a day passing the intake. Again, directly related to rainfall. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Julie. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Action. Go ahead.
Since we just experienced probably one of the larger fires that we've had on the system in memory, we thought it would be appropriate to update the board on the actions with the Jim Beam fire, if that's appropriate.
Great. That sounds like a good idea, David. Thank you.
Okay. On the night of July the 2nd, lightning hit one of the barrel warehouses owned by Jim Beam on McCracken Pike. that night, the electric department was asked to come down and disconnect the electricity. They did so, but they also notified the water department and upper management of the situation. The water treatment plant staff responded. They started the water treatment plant as soon as they possibly could in an effort to support the fire department, and the water department staff also responded to support the fire department and as well as monitor the distribution system. The fire departments were successful in containing the fire to one building, but approximately 46,000 barrels of product were lost. During that process, an estimated 3 to 4 million gallons of water was provided. An unknown amount of alcohol ran off into Glens Creek and into the Kentucky River upstream of the water treatment plant for several days. The water treatment plant staff adjusted their treatment, and all of our customers were notified via social media and the website that they might detect a smell or a sweet taste of bourbon. And we also reminded them that the same thing occurred in the wild turkey incident back in 2000. Over the few days following the incident, we received a handful of calls, but they subsided fairly quickly. I would like to thank emergency services, the fire departments, all the ones that responded, not only Woodford, but the other ones that responded, and all the people that had a hand in responding, but especially the water department staff, in the manner in which they responded and handled the situation, because it could have been a lot worse. So that's really all I had, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions. So
Okay.
thank you, guys.
Yes, I do think that the water department, water treatment department in particular, did a great job of treating the water and taking care of the situation as it arrived. And that was great. One thing I'm curious about, and I don't know that we know, but did they have a lightning arrestor on the top of the roof that could have taken the lightning to ground rather than burning up the building?
I don't have that information.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's good that no other buildings caught on fire and that we were able to help with that.
Could have been a lot worse. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And Scott Stafford had
Okay.
We had just a quick announcement from Media Services that we launched a new show on Cable 10. So we wanted everybody to know about it. It's called Around 10, and it's Frankfort's morning show. It's live every Wednesday morning at 10 on Cable 10 and Facebook, and replayed throughout the week. A lot of effort went into it to get it going by David Columbia, Zach Hubbard, Abby Phillips, and Crystal Simpson. We open with a community calendar every show just to let, and it's kind of the main purpose of the show is if it's something's happening in town, we want everybody to know about it, nothing to fall through the cracks. So that's kind of what it was born from. Kathy Lindsay comes on every week to educate our customers about what's going on at FPB. The show evolves every week. The State Journal has partnered with us to bring the week's headlines. And we also last week started a new feature on social media called the Frankfort Minute. So now that's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So every weekday, if there's anything going on in town, everybody's going to know about it. So you can follow that on Instagram, on the Cable 10 Instagram page, and on our Facebook pages. So just wanted everybody to know that and be able to follow that and watch that show.
I had a question on the Frankfort Minute.
Yes.
Is that just 1 minute, a 1 minute update, or?
I'm not going to swear that we'll hit a minute every week.
Well, it's approximately that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've watched. Y'all do a great job. It's entertaining. It's fun. I think the earphones are a little dorky. But no offense, Santa Marie, right now. But
Yeah.
I thought it was great. Y'all do good.
Thank you all. Thank you. It'll continue to evolve every week, and we're trying to add new features all the time. So yeah, just stick with us, and it should get better and better, hopefully.
I was just
Do we have
hoping
any
it wasn't
way
low.
of tracking how many people tune in?
We haven't looked at the cable numbers yet, but we're looking at about 1,000 to 3,000 people reached on Facebook so far for each one of those. And we've just started, and we haven't promoted it at all, really. So we're just starting to do that. So we feel pretty good about it so far.
People
Sounds
seem to be
very
finding it.
positive.
Had several positive comments. From
Good. Good. We have too. We've gotten a lot of phone calls, and it's rare for us to get phone calls, but we've gotten phone calls and emails, and so we're pretty excited about it. Thank you.
I just wondered if we needed to put money in the budget for those little ear things, like, you know. Okay.
Okay. So I should maybe note that we aren't doing financial reporting this month, that we traditionally have not done it the month following the big budget effort, and we will resume that, of course, in August. So moving on, unless there's anything else, to 5.1, consider approval of Kurt's resolution of authority. So Travis McCullough will fill us in on that.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the board, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has created an online portal for their utility relocation projects. They're calling it Kurt's. It'll basically be kind of their one-stop shop for plan submittal, engineering drawings, invoicing. They are encouraging utilities to participate. In order for the staff to do so, we'll need a resolution of authority from the board granting engineering and accounting folks access to sign documents electronically and access plans and all that good stuff that they'll be posting on the CURT system. As I said, they're encouraging us to participate, but it'll also be to our benefit because all the documents are going to be housed in one place, so it'll be easier for all parties to kind of keep track of these big relocation projects. And the resolution is on page 53 of your packet. Be happy to answer any questions.
Is this something new for the plant board? Have they done similar things in the past, or?
Typically, it becomes kind of those long email chains where plans and bills and those kind of things get passed back and forth, or you mail an invoice. So I don't know that there's ever been one kind of centralized location where everything's all online at once until now. They've been promoting it for a while, so I think it's fairly mature at this point, but it's somewhat new to us.
Okay. That sounds good. So I guess if there's no further discussion, we need a motion to approve the Kurt's resolution of authority.
I move we approve the Kurt's resolution of authority.
Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passed. Thank you, everyone. 5.2, consider 101.6 million rebate for electric operating revenues to eligible FPB electric customers to return portions of the wholesale power savings expected from the change in wholesale power supply. Gary Zhang to present.
Madam, I would like to let her to start the detail, and if there's any question, I definitely can answer.
Okay, before we start on that, I wanted to follow up on what Ms. Rosen said. We are in the process of closing the year. That's why you don't have June financials yet. We're making good progress. We hope to have all that wrapped up this week and then start on audit requests next week because the auditors will be here the following week. So we will present June and July in August. And we hope to have the presentation from the auditors at the September board meeting. So that's just a little update and follow up. Okay, on 5.2, Frankfort Plant Board officially switched the wholesale power supplier from KU to KyMEA on May 1st. We expect to save around $5 million annually on wholesale power expense due to this change. Staff is recommending the board to consider returning approximately $1.6 million of this estimated savings back to eligible FPB electric customers, and this is reflected in our most recent budget. To be eligible for this rebate, you must have been an FPB electric customer on May 1st, 2019, which was the day of the switch. The rebate will be issued as a credit on your bill, and the credit will be based on the total dollar value of the last 12 months electric bill for that customer, and that 12 months will be from May 2018 until April 2019. The credit will be put on your bill in August. So the bills that you would normally get, depending on if you're cycle 1 or cycle 2, they'll be issued on August 11th or the 28th. That would be reflected on that bill. And you also must be an FPB electric customer when the rebate credit is issued to receive the credit. Based on the proposed structure, the average residential customer would receive about a $34 credit. Any questions or discussion?
Thank you. I think that was a good explanation of what we want to do for our customers. And of course, our industrial and retail customers pay at a higher rate. They'll be receiving a higher percentage back.
I think that's strictly based on the revenue we receive from each customer. So the rate of the return is the same. It's just like every dollar we receive it. For example, annually we have around 60 million. We're going to divide that 1.6 based on that revenue. So if the customer pay us a higher in that 1 year, even the return rate is exactly the same, they could have a higher, bigger amount.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, good point. I misspoke there, and it is the same for everyone, just that they pay us more. If there's no further discussion, do we have a motion to approve the rebate?
Sure, I'll move that we approve the $1.6 million rebate to electric operating revenues to eligible FPB electric customers to return a portion of our wholesale power supply savings expected from a change in wholesale power suppliers.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the rebate?
Aye.
Aye. I believe the motion carried. Okay. Thank you. 5.3, consider changes to the FPB job classification and compensation plan, reclassification of 3 positions. Diane Schneider to explain to us.
Good evening. I'll be presenting in place of Diane this evening. In June,
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. In June, the board approved several reclassifications based on the recent compensation study by the Johansson Group. However, due to an oversight, there were 3 additional supervisory level positions that should have been included. Those proposed changes are for the cable construction supervisor, the electric construction support supervisor, and the system technician supervisor positions. The proposed changes are on the page 61 of your board package. Do you have any questions?
I would like to explain that a little more. When we say they are the supervisor, they are not really the management position. They are the frontline people in the field.
Correct, yes.
Yes. It's like the first level supervisor, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this, or do we have a motion?
I'll move we accept the changes to the FPB job classification and compensation plan and reclassify the 3 positions.
Okay, a motion and second. All in favor of these job classification changes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Motion carried. Thank you. On to item 6, informational item, general manager's comments. Gary, did you have anything for us that you wanted to discuss?
Thank you. Yes, I have Cassie going to help me present some.
Hello. Just wanted to give you all just a little update on just some things that we've been doing out in the community. I had some videos to show, but we'll show them next month, or I can send them to you, or they're on Facebook. So I hope you guys are on Facebook and follow us there, because we post a lot of stuff. We've been creating some new videos and some new Facebook ads, really, for the different things that we're doing. The first thing that we did a video about our new water fountain at Riverview Park, where the farmers market is, and that's already popular. So I took a box of water bottles down there last week, so that they can keep them there and give them out to the customers who want to use them for the water fountain. So, and actually we're having Lisa Munitska on our show tomorrow on around 10 to talk about the farmers market and the opportunities down there for the folks in our community. So that's good. And then we had another video to show tonight. And again, follow us on Facebook because these are all on there and they're really good. About our time downtown, July 5th, we hosted the summer concert. And we had about 15 employees there. We had 3 tents. We gave out water bottles. We had our light board there to show the difference in energy that's pulled from different bulbs, including the LED bulbs, the CFLs, and just the standard, I guess, incandescent bulbs. And we gave out light bulbs, LED light bulbs. We had a wooden flag that was made by one of our employees that we had a drawing for, and we drew for it that night. We had it here in the lobby during the week, and then we drew for it that night. And then we also hosted a rock finding contest for the kids, and they loved that. We went out and hid the rocks, and the kids found rocks, and they got little prizes. And then they went and hit them again. And so I had so many parents come up and thank us for being there to have something to do for the kids. And they said they didn't have to keep them busy or worried because they were enjoying the concert. So the parents got to enjoy the music, the kids got to enjoy the game, and it was all fun. We had a really good time. It was hot. It was hot, but I did see Anna Marie was there and Jeff was there for a while, so it was good to see some board members there. It was a good time, and again, we made a little video about it, and we shared that online, and it's been a good thing. We just wanted to keep y'all in the loop of different things that we're doing. And again, as Scott mentioned, the show's been great. It is another vehicle for us to talk about things that we're doing. And I was at the Optimist Club today, and we're gonna give our civic groups an opportunity to come and talk about different things that they're doing in the community. So it's a really good vehicle for things that are going on in our community and to keep people informed. And I just like that we're at the center of it. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
I think it's covered. Thank you, Kathy. Okay. Let's see. Number 7, informational item, old and new business. Do we have anything under that category?
Yes, I do have something. I want to talk about this reservoir again. You know, we have been talking about it, but I want to first read my prepared statement and then we can discuss it, if you will. I would like to, again, address the reservoir issue. It has become clear to me that one side has to concede something to hopefully move us toward a solution in a mutually acceptable and expeditious manner. Our community needs a new reservoir now, but we've been in an impasse for almost a year, and that's not good for Frankfort, Franklin County, period. I am and have been supportive of a 7 million gallon tank. I believe it is the best and most efficient option, but the impasse forces me to take a more pragmatic view of our current situation. Concession for the good of the community is the operative word. The 6.5 million gallon option will cost the plant board an additional $400,000, but at least it will be expended toward a tangible benefit to the community. The low interest rate loan that is currently available to the plant board will help minimize the added cost to the ratepayer. A 6.5 million gallon tank will address the major concerns of all. I believe this because, one, and this is important, the height of the 6.5 million gallon tank is actually lower than either of the 4.6 million gallon tanks currently favored by the Frankfort City Commission. It's lower. This, two, the tank will meet the community's water need for the next 40 to 50 years. 3, the footprint of the 6.5 million gallon tank is significantly less than the 4.6 million gallon tanks. At the risk of oversimplifying the disagreement between the plant board and the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association, the ultimate goal of the Neighborhood Association is to minimize the aesthetic impact of a new tank and the potential economic consequence on their property values. The ultimate goal of the plant board is to minimize the fiscal impact on our ratepayers and provide the opportunity for the plant board to meet the needs of the city and county for future years of growth and development. This proposal addresses the ultimate goals of both parties. I'm not presenting it as a win-win proposition. Some may not see it as a total win for the plant board, and Tanglewood may not see it as a total win for the neighborhood. But it is a win for the citizens of the city and the county. And at this late day, that's where really our focus should be. Before I make a motion, on this, I'm going to make a motion. I would like to address recent issues brought up about Frankfort's water capacity as it relates to the size of the reservoir. There have been questions on the reservoir's role in providing water if a catastrophic event occurred in the Kentucky River that would prevent the plant board from utilizing it as a water resource. Secondly, in light of the recent Jim Beam fire, there have been thoughts that the size of the reservoir has an impact on Frankfort's ability to provide water to meet fire events. Staff advises me that the key components in water capacity is the plant board's ability to treat water. The reservoir serves as a temporary holding point for quote-unquote short-term water use. Frankfort utilizes approximately 7 million gallons a day, and you heard them mention that their peak was 8 million when I looked at the chart earlier. Our daily capacity is met by increasing water treatment production when needed, and they alluded to that earlier too. The differences between the size of the reservoir tanks have no significant impact on the capacity of Frankfort's water reserves. The differences can be quantified in hours rather than days. With that, I move that the Frankfort Plant Board recommend a 6.5 million gallon tank to the Frankfort City Commission for their review and action, and that this recommendation be delivered via letter with an attached diagram that explicitly shows them the exact height and circumference of the proposed tank. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And I'd like to have a roll call vote on this.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting this one, my thoughts together around it yet, but I guess a few points I would make is, the only difference we're talking about, I would like to clarify what we're talking about, height difference. Between the 7 million gallon tank with the 1/10th roof and the 6.5 million gallon tank with the 1/16th roof, there's 9 feet difference. 7 feet of that difference is the roof change. So you can stay with 7 million gallons and go with the lower pitch roof and bring it down to within 2 feet of the additional, or of the 6.5 with the lower pitch roof. The big height savings is that shift between the roof and the other. The other comment I would make is that, the larger aesthetic conversation that we've had around, adjusting the footprint of the tank and trying to improve the aesthetics is to rearrange some of the antenna facilities up there and so we can increase that earth berm all the way around the tank. And by doing that, we don't have a hard number on it, but certainly a few $100,000, we would actually be able to plant 30-foot evergreen trees all the way around the facility to shield the visual aesthetic of the whole site and still return the majority of the site to green space. So with that direction going forward, that actually, I think, gives us a higher value for our money versus just lowering the roof and not spending the money on the earth and berm and the other work to be able to plant all around it. And then the other point I would like to make is that, at the end of the day, we're talking about $500,000 for 9 feet. And while it clearly is important for us to move forward, it's 9 feet. And I think if we're trying to have a more optimal aesthetic there, being able to plant those trees around it is a better option. And then it removes that discussion from the 9 feet from the conversation because it's all going to be surrounded by 30-foot trees.
I really cannot disagree with anything you say, your logic, but that's why I said I've been forced to be more pragmatic about this. It's not all about what fits logically together. There are other dynamics in this situation now. And it calls for some concession so we can move forward. It's for the sake of this community and for the water. These events, while the reservoir doesn't have a direct impact on the recent events, the reservoir is in disarray. I understand that the top 2 million gallons in the tank cannot be put in it because of structural problems. It tells me it's time to do a tank. I mean, and 6.5 million gallons versus 7 million gallons, I hear that it's not that much difference. And now that I understand that it doesn't impact the capacity of water providing into Frankfort, if that concession gets us to a new tank in the very near future versus a protracted just stalemate, I think it's worth doing it because somebody has to do something. Somebody has to move here, and I think it behooves us to move and concede something. And what we're conceding is not really a material concession to us, but it could be a material concession to Tanglewood, who wants a lower profile, a lower height reservoir, and this 6.5 is actually lower than the one the City Commission has approved, the 2 4.6s. So we're coming in under their height, under the height of what they've already approved. And it fits our purpose of having a place for a future tank. It fits the Tanglewood Association's purpose of a lower tank and not a high profile tank. And the footprint that is taken up is probably 30%, 30% of what's up there right now. It seems like it's an idea that at least needs to be considered. And so my proposal is to let's pass this so the City Commission can consider it, so the Tanglewood Association can consider it. If it doesn't go, then we haven't lost anything. But if it does go, we can have a tank started this fall.
No.
Well, we can, assuming whatever the operational to go from approval to construction is, whatever that period can start when as soon as we do that.
But that is a good point. You know, the only design solution that's out there now is the 7 million gallon tank. The only thing we could start on this fall is the 7 million gallon tank. If we shift from the design solution that's out there now, that means best case we start construction next spring.
Well, that's better than not doing anything at all.
And then the other comment I'd like to make is that, you know, I don't particularly have an issue with making a material concession because I think we want to move forward. But, you know, more than anything, it seems what Tanglewood has asserted is that they want to improve the aesthetic. And to them, the leverage there has been to lower the height of the tank. And by, you know, putting the trees around it, we do affect that aesthetic. But the other component here is you know, all these options have been discussed and they've all been rejected. So where do we go from there?
The 6.5 million gallon, and I'll risk whatever the closed meeting was briefly brought up in the City Commission and then quickly put down in the City Commission, because I was talking about 6.5, and then I realized that we were not on board with 6.5 anymore. We were on board still with 7. Right. And so I don't think that the City Commission clearly understands that the 6.5 million gallon option was viable in the eyes of the Frankfort Plant Board. And I don't think Tanglewood Association understood. I knew that the 6.5 million gallon proposal was viable in the eyes of the Plant Board. So now I want to make it very clear to everyone that I'm willing to concede and to go to the 6.5 and provide the exact height and the exact circumference. So there is no, it's approximately this, it's approximately that. It is this, because I want them to trust what we're giving them, and I want to make sure the City Commission trusts what we're giving them. So that's why I want to be precise. That's why I proposed a written letter. That's something in the record that says, here it is, here's the height.
Well, we've talked through all these items with them, with Tanglewood and with the City Commission, and we've not made any ground with them. But beyond that, we don't have any guarantee that by making any concessions, it's going to move forward. I mean, from my perspective, I would like to hear, what's a yes from City Commission, what they can support before we move forward, what they would like to see. And also, as far as material impacts, the shift between 7 million gallons to 6.5 million gallons, while it does have a minor system impact, doesn't have a major aesthetic impact. The major aesthetic impact is the reduction in the roof pitch.
And the 6.5 million gallon tank is lower in height than the 4.6 tanks. That's already been approved by the Frankfort City Commission. So the height is lowered. It's not increased by 2 feet, it's actually lowered. So, and the other point you made is a guarantee from, I need a guarantee from the Tanglewood Association or City Commission. This is not about whether I feel comfortable in this. This is about getting something for the Franklin County community. If I have to get down on my knees and beg, I'll give up my ego and whatever to get this through. So this is not about, I don't need a guarantee. I'm gonna go out there on faith and say, well, here it is. If it's good, take it. If it's not, we haven't lost anything.
I don't think that either the City Commission or the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association has actually had the proposal of a 6.5 million gallon tank. I've talked with some of the Tanglewood people. They have not had that understanding that it has actually been proposed to them. At this point, we need to move forward. The 7 million gallon tank is going nowhere. And we've had the opportunity. It is dead in the water. We need to move forward. I was for the 7 million gallon tank because it was the most cost effective option. But after I read the engineering assessment on the reservoir, I changed my mind on that. I was willing to go with the two 4.6s because I'm not willing to take the risk of something happening to the reservoir while we litigate for possibly years going to the Court of Appeals on the 7 million gallon tank. I think Steve makes a good point of being conciliatory, of putting this out there, and I think we need to do it.
Well, as far as the fastest option, again, the fastest option is to build the 7 million gallon tank. And if we're, successful in Franklin Circuit Court, that could be as soon as 90 days.
And that's a big if.
Okay, Jeff, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Well, personally, I think that we've heard nothing about. There's not been a lot of talk about the 6.5 million gallon tank. There's I believe that we've put out there in some of our plans and conversations with Tanglewood, the Neighborhood Association, with the City Commission, about improvements that we've been willing to make with the landscaping. We have no guarantee that we put a proposal forward for 6.5 that it's going to be accepted. I feel that I agree with Walt. I think that the 7 million gallon tank is the best option. I believe that the community needs this. The community needs this now, and we're prepared now with a plan. So we don't have to go back to the drawing board. We don't have to spend more ratepayer money for another plan that we have no idea if it's going to be accepted or not, or be
going to spend it in legal costs.
Well,
okay.
That's
well,
subjective.
I have a few comments basically taking up what Jeff was saying, is that we have spent 5 months talking about different options. What if we did a lower dome, a 6.5 million gallon tank, landscaping, moving antennas, moving the tower, and we haven't gotten positive reinforcement from the commission or from the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association. So I think sticking with the best solution and offering landscaping as a better spending of money than to reduce the capacity and a more expensive lower roof.
Well, you said you just stated my case. Really, you just said we spent 5, 6.5 months discussing aesthetics, putting shrubbery, trees, and stuff around the 7 million, and they said no. So what's the problem with offering a 6.5 million gallon tank? And you still might do the shrubbery and all those things because they've said no. The city commission has said no to all what you just said. You just described in a nutshell our scenario, and it hasn't gone for anything. So what gives you hope, I guess, that the city commission is going to change their minds anytime soon?
Right, I agree with they aren't. We have offered all of those options and we haven't gotten anywhere. So I don't think it's our call to change the offer. I think it's them. They can come to us and say, we like your landscaping proposal. We like what you want to offer.
Well, let me ask you this.
But they haven't responded. We've offered.
What's our principle that we're holding on to hold on to this position? I mean, I don't see the logic. So is there some intangible factor here that we are holding on to hold this position? Because there's no material. There's not a material difference from the water plant board in 6.5 and 7. I mean, functionally, it's not that big of a difference. There's not a material difference.
There is a system impact.
No, wait a minute. That's not a material difference. There's not a material difference between a 7 million gallon tank and a 6.5 million gallon tank as it relates to its function within the water production system in Frankfort.
I think there is. First of all, the lower dome is a newer engineering design. It requires more materials. It doesn't have as long of a history. And the 7 million gallon is what our engineers came up with as logical and best service for the cost of the tank in relationship to the service that we need to provide. And it's the best option for all of the ratepayers.
The point is, there is no difference materially in the function of a 6.5 million gallon tank and a 7 million gallon tank as it relates to that component in the Frankfort water production system.
Well, I think there is in terms of history.
History? What's history have to do with the production of water?
I mean, how long it's going to last.
And it's at the bottom. It's at the bottom of the projection.
The projection has been said to be 30, 35, whatever I said it was. It's still in the same range, long after I'll probably be gone. So, what's the? I mean, I just don't understand what we are holding on to that prevents us from at least providing the 6.5 million gallon option to the city. I don't know what this board is holding on to that makes us not able to do that.
Well, it's not the most cost-effective solution. It does have system impact, and we've also offered it to Tanglewood and the City Commission. And of all the things we've
they haven't offered the 6.5 million gallons.
Yes, I have.
What do you mean you have? We haven't.
We have.
You said you have.
We have in the conversation.
Well, let's do it officially. Let's do it officially.
And they've said no.
We have discussed it.
Let's offer it officially.
We've also come to them and said, just tell us what's a yes.
Let us offer it. Let us offer it officially to them.
And they've not been willing to.
Let us put it on the record, offering it officially to them, and let them respond to us on the record their rejection or approval of it. So if you, Anna Marie, and you, Walt, have offered that, because I haven't. I have not talked to any of them up until a week ago.
We talked about it in the closed session.
For 2 seconds.
Right.
We talked about it 2 seconds, and they didn't know.
We talked about it much more extensively in follow-on conversations.
So you and Anna Marie have talked about it, because I haven't talked about it to anyone.
We did have drawings. David Billings made drawings showing the different heights.
But I'm trying to be very clear. 6.5 million gallon, the height as it is, which is under the 4.6, the circumference, which obviously is going to be a little wider. Offer that to them officially. Offer it to the city commission officially. We will offer you this as for your approval, or review and approval, and let's see what happens. If they say no, they on the record they will communicate back to us saying no, we don't agree with that. We haven't lost anything, but the paper
I think
we
we
voted
have
on.
lost by doing that.
So what have we lost, Anna Marie?
$500,000. That it takes that amount to do the lower roof, And then the next thing was, well, would we do landscaping? We spend that 500,000
Let's
towards
talk about,
landscaping.
but you muddy
Has
the
it been
water.
mentioned?
I'm talking about the tank and the height, which is one of their major issues, the height. And we have a proposal that covers that answers that concern.
Well,
That-
We aren't going to provide that option that to the city commission as our official request.
in my mind, it's a $500,000 for a change that doesn't add value. And at this point, I don't think we're
Well,
going to
we spent a $500,000 on some things that
So I would call
are
for
a
the
little
question.
bit more frivolous than that.
Madam Chair, I call for the
Well,
question.
I would like to mention for a moment where the idea of a 6.5 million gallon tank came from was from Keith Parker. And he took it to Tanglewood and to the city commission and talked to them about it, and he came back with a no answer.
Let us offer it
So-
officially. Let's offer it officially to them and let them officially tell us yes or no. I mean, that's very, very simple. It's not costing us anything but the paper we communicated on.
Okay, well, I think we've covered all the key points here. I think perhaps it's time for a motion and a vote.
We have a
We
motion and a
have a
second.
motion.
You have
Okay.
a motion and a second, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we can go ahead. Kathy, can you please call the vote?
Member Bradshaw,
I vote no.
Member Mason,
Yes.
Member Hale,
Yes.
Member Baldwin,
No.
Member Rosen.
No. I'm sorry, the motion has failed. We're proceeding with the 7 million gallon tank and open to input from City Commission, from Tanglewood, if they'd like to talk to us. So, at this point, do we have a motion for closed? I think it's time for a motion for closed our session. Kathy, I don't have that wording with me. If you can read that, or another board member.
I move we call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61-8110-1C to discuss proposed litigation regarding the medical reimbursement. Okay. What do I need to say that? And the reservoir.
Litigation concerning the reservoir. Ongoing litigation.
Okay. All in favor of going into closed session?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor of closed session?
Aye.
Aye.